All right, so for part number 11, we're going to look at here. This is going to be a new concept that you guys are going to learn today called loft. And what a loft is when you connect two, you're not going to do a straight cut going back through, you're going to connect two shapes and it will cut out kind of this odd shape here that we've got when we do a loft. So you connect two profiles into a cut. There's other ways that we can use a loft, but we're going to just start kind of with the basic way for it. So we're going to go into Fusion 360. Um, First thing I'm going to do is make sure that I'm in my right data panel. So I'm in my Learn 360, I'm in my basic parts. So I've got my basic parts here. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit the save button. And this is going to be part 11. So we're almost done. It's in the Learn 360 basic parts. I'm going to save it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my new component. So we're going to make this component. We're going to call this part 11. So we've got it here. So there is part 11. Now what I'm going to do here is we are going to start to create just our basic cube. So I'm going to start this on the front. I'm going to make the full cube. So this cube, if we look at it, is 2.5 inches tall by 4 inches wide, 2.5. All right, there's that. And we're going to dimension this out, or not dimension, extrude this out. So I'm going to extrude this. It's going to go 2 inches. Okay, so there's our basic cube. We are like halfway there, right? So if we wanted to, we could we make save a version of this if we want to, and so we can make this halfway point, make a save here. So we're saving our version, and version description would be halfway if we wanted to. Just kind of showing you how you can do this. So I got a version for it. I'm going to go into the front, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do that first triangle piece that we're going to cut. Because if you look at it, really there's two triangles. So I'm working with a triangle shape on the front because we're going to cut this piece out. But if you took this is essentially a triangle on the front and then a triangle on the back. It's kind of what we're trying to look at for this piece. So that's what we're doing first. And then the other thing to make this nice and easy for you guys is if you look at this, we are right where the bottom point of the triangle comes is exactly the midpoint of the front of the shape, and it would be the midpoint of the back of the shape as well. Okay, so we're going to go in here, and I'm going to add a sketch on the front, and I'm going to add. I'm not going to add I'm going to add my line. So I'm going to start right up here. Now on this front one, we know that it's going to come from the point to the point because when you look at it, so I'm going to go from the point, and I just want to make sure I get in and I can see as I come across. See how it turns blue? That lets me know I'm on the midpoint. See how that gives me the midpoint of my shape. I want to make sure that I come to that midpoint somewhere in there, right? So I'm going to come somewhere in there. I know it's got to get close, so I'm going to come down here to kind of get it close, but I'm going to go to the point, and then I'm going to go all the way back up to this edge point here. Okay, so now if I'm looking at this, if I look at the shape, see how I got one end, it starts right at the corner, the other is right at the corner, and this is right along the midpoint. And it's a 1/2 inch up. So I'm going to dimension that out to be a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to dimension from here to here. And, oh, and I'm going to bring it out here, and that is going to be 0.5. Okay, so I've got that dimensioned out at 0.5 inches for me. Okay, now what we're going to do is finish that sketch. So I've got my sketch there on the front. Now, if I was to push this all the way through, this would just push it all the way through. We're gonna change, rotate this around to get to the back. Okay, so now we're going to create a new sketch on the back. So I'm going to create a sketch on the back here. And now for this sketch, we're going to look at what we're trying to come up with here. So if I'm looking at this one, it looks like I'm going to come in 1 inch on either side before it's going to start. and then it's going to go down half an inch. It's going to go down an inch in the center. Yep, it's going to go an inch in the center. So this is a half inch, 2 inch, so a half inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2.5 inches. And it's going to go down a depth of a half an inch, 1 inch. So it's going to go 1 inch down along the center line, 1 inch in, 1 inch in. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. I'm going to add my lines. So I'm going to add a line here. Let's add a line right here. And make sure I get to my center point, a line here. There it is. And then I'm going to add a line back up here. All right, now I'm going to dimension this out. Dimension from this point to this point. It's going to be 1 inch. And I'm going to dimension from this point to this point, which is 1 inch. Okay, now if I look at this, let's remember what I had for this for the back of this one here. And it was, let's go back here. Notice that the bottom point of my triangle moved just a little bit. We'll get that in a second. So this is going to come down half an inch, 1 inch down. So the total is 2.5. So is that right? Half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. And I'm coming down. So I need to, from the bottom, come down 1.5. Or from the bottom up 1.5. So I'm going to measure from here to here. And that's going to be 1.5. Okay, so that's going to get that there. And then what I want to do is I want to make this point from here to here is exactly 2 inches. Right, so I want to make sure that it's directly centered because it moved off the line a little bit. When I set up my dimensions, when I set my dimensions from 1 inch and 1 inch here, it kind of moved this point across. So I just put, I want this point to be directly centered because this is 4 inches. So now that we've got everything done, we're going to finish the sketch. So we've got our two shapes here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create what's known as a loft. And so I'm going to go in here to create, and I'm going to go down and create a loft. Okay, now what the loft does is it creates, you can do it either as a solid, and there's some really cool things that you can do with the loft. Okay, so you create two, like it joins two things together to make it into a shape, does all the angles for you, or we can cut it out and make something. And I'll show you some other ways that we can use a loft in class. But so for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to create a loft. And what we're going to do is select the two faces. So I'm going to select this face here. So my front face. And then I'm going to rotate around. I'm going to select the back face. And so that's going to be my loft. Now what you can see is you can see how it's going to cut it out. And I want to make sure that I've got it as a cut, right? So I'm cutting those objects out. So we've got it here. We're cutting those features out. And I'm going to hit the OK button. And there it is. It has just cut out all of those pieces. And so this would be part number 11, using a loft to cut it out. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to hit the save button, and we're going to hit completed. We'll make this a milestone, and we'll say finished. That's it. You've completed all of the basic Fusion 360 models. Great job.